All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host for this morning's session, Benny Allen, along with my awesome partner, Mr. Ryan Carthage. And we're definitely all happy and grateful for you to be here with us this morning as we take a look at the technicals and the fundamentals to see what we can take advantage of in this Forex market. So without further ado, let's make sure that we turn off any and all distractions, grab a pen and paper, take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. So if everybody can hear me loud and clear now, please do me a huge favor, drop me a 1 in the chat. Let me know that we are all ready to go. And I see all the ones coming in. I appreciate it. Had a few technical difficulties this morning, but I think we are all set. So I appreciate it, everybody. All right, so let me jump right out. And as always, let's head right on over and take a look at the Forex Factory. Going back to yesterday, which was the 6th, we know that we had a bank rate decision coming out of Canada, and they decided to hold rates at 5%, which was expected. But then yesterday, what came out to be pretty strong for the US dollar was the ISM services PMI came through at 54.5 on the projection of 52.5. So for those, we put a lot of notes in the Discord about it, but for those who may not know, when you look at the ISM services PMI, anything above 50 indicates industry expansion, below indicates contraction, right? So it's a leading indicator of economic health. Businesses react quickly to market conditions, and their purchasing managers hold perhaps the most current and relevant insight into the company's view of the economy. So it's a survey of 300 purchasing managers, which asked respondents to rate the relative level of business conditions, including employment, production, new orders, prices, supplier deliveries, and inventory. So that came through pretty good. So it is a good gauge of economic health. So the dollar, I mean, the US economy continues to rock and roll overall. There are some key areas that are starting to slow, but for the most part, this was a positive report for the US dollar. And then coming into today, we've got unemployment claims for the United States. The projected is 232,000. So we'll see how that comes out. And then we've got Governor Macklem from the Bank of Canada speaking today. That should be quite interesting coming on the heels of yesterday's rate decision. So we'll continue to keep an eye out on that. Other than that, not too much for today overall. Heading over to trading economics, we can see that China exports and imports fall less than estimated. All right, for China, decent. And then the Euro area GDP growth revised lower to 0.1%. And then we've got Australia trade surplus is the smallest in 17 months. So a little bit of contraction there. But going over to, we take a look at the pound, right? So we're seeing that pound move to the downside quite a bit, correcting right now. And so we read that it is reaching the lowest point since June versus the dollar. Remarks by Bank of Canada Governor Andrew Bailey during his appearance before the UK Parliament. Bailey stated that the central bank was approaching the conclusion of a string of interest rate hikes, even though the prospect of further rate increases loomed due to persistent inflationary pressures. In parallel, another member of the Bank of England, Swati Deringa, expressed concerns that interest rates had already reached a level that could potentially harm the economy if further increase, right? So if you raise them too fast and too high, it can start to have a negative impact on growth. All right, so you see here the BOE has implemented rate hikes in each of its past 14 meetings, driven by the need to combat elevated inflation levels despite signs of economic weakness. So we see that pound on that news is moving to the downside, right? So it's always important to know the why, right? So it's currently correcting. Joy, I see. I had all types of technical issues this morning, crazy stuff. So Ryan, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, bro. I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Now I got the technical bugs out of the way, so I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Ready to go. So lots of things going on in regards to price action of the last couple of days or so. Anything out there that you've been watching? I know the Bank of Japan. There's some starting to get some grumblings out there.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates. I've been stalking Japan Times and Japan Today, trying to see if there's anything additional out there, and nothing new at the moment.
Yep. Yep. I forget what I was listening to, but they're saying like even though they're trying to jawbone a little bit and talk prices down against the yen, that there's really into next year before really anything what I mean could change with the Bank of Japan. So
Yeah, yeah,
uh
because they have some meetings starting like November, early December, discussing wages and things like that. And based on how that conversation goes, will kind of determine what happens in the first quarter to the end of the first quarter.
yeah,
So I'm in agreement with that statement.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so definitely in the next year, like I said, they'll keep jawboning like they always do to kind of intervene verbally in regards to you know, other currencies making a run on it, on the yen. But like you said yesterday, they're always concerned about the speed in which that is happening. So we'll continue to watch it. Reach the yen index basket creating higher lows on the 4 hour. No highs broken yet though. Yep. Yeah. So it'll pause a little bit, but I definitely think those highs will eventually be broken for sure. Reese, appreciate the update on that. So just looking at the dollar index, right? Dollar's running as a result of a lot of the positive economic data as of late. Okay, so it is running to the upside. So I've got that area circled here, um, that high, because it definitely looks like that's where it's headed, right? Back to that tip. So we'll continue to watch it right throughout the week, especially we're in the Thursday now, going into Friday. It looks like we're going to close above that level. And we look for corrections and continuations on the dollar for the time being. So we've got a strong dollar right now. Here we are on the on the 4 hour, and you can see we've got an ABCD wave playing out on the dollar index right at the 61.8. Isn't that weird how that just happens? No matter what we're looking at, right? No matter what the asset class that uh, you get those waves playing out. So there we are. So there's that next resistance level at the 4, right around that D extension. So definitely looking for more dollar upside. Does that mean that it won't correct? No, it's definitely it'll correct, right? But we look overall for it to continue to move high. Okay, so that's the DXY. Any questions on the dollar, on the fundamentals that we covered so far this morning?
Yeah, I have a question. I noticed I've been up since 3. I noticed that it was a little strengthening in the NZD, but I couldn't even find any news to see why. Um and I didn't know if you could point me in the right direction.
I don't know. I have to look it up. I know we got that. I mean, we've got a little positive data coming out of China, right, in regards to exports falling. Less than expected. Imports fall less than expected. So they need anything positive out of China right now. They'd be happy to get. Because so right here, you see the Chinese economy is facing the risk of missing Beijing's 2023 projected target of around 5% amid the deepening property downturn, weak consumption, and persistent pressure on the manufacturing sector. So they're under a lot of heat right now in China. So the fact that it came in less than estimated, that's some positive news. So maybe you saw a little bump coming there. I don't know. I have to read deeper on the New Zealand. I'm gonna write that down. That's a good question. But that might be, you know, a reason why we saw it. Not sure. Yep. Any
I put
other
a
questions?
runaround for NU, so I'm gonna see.
Oh, you say you put one on the NU?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See if we can get that out today. Take a look at that and see it now. Okay. So let's jump out, right? We saw the DXY. Take a look at some of our pairs, right, that we've been following. Finally starting to get some big moves to come through. So we'll go first. I want to check in on this this Aussie Swiss, because this has been a super slow mover. But it's still holding firm in the game. Oh man, what is going on with the charts? Okay. All right. So here we are on this Aussie Swissy play. 80-20. Okay. And now we've got the subfields running to the upside. And it's looking like we're trying to get an ABCD wave to play out. So is this one taking forever? It is, but it's okay. Right? It's okay. It's trying to move right to that 382. And we've got a sub-fib ABCD wave there. So we'll see if we can get price to move to that target at TP2. So if you've got a position in there that's running, let it continue to run. It's looking like it's starting to get some positive momentum today, hopefully beyond that. Okay. Any questions on the Aussie Swiss on that 80-20? Still looking for that 382 target to be hit. Slightly.
No, sir.
All right. All right. I want to take a look at this this CAD Swissy, because it's trying to move. It's trying to move off those lows. And this little range we had drawn out is moving towards the top of that range. So I'm wondering if we're ready to break out. You can see here on this 1 hour where we got the trend line break and the pullback, and you can see we got a deep right before, not quite at 86, but we got a 786 pullback, and we can see that this fib is now deactivated. So it's made the ABCD move. So what we're waiting on now is just a new setup, right? So you got your A, your B, your C, your lowest point within the AB boundary, and then we moved. Okay, so now what we're waiting on is we need a new fib, which should have. We should have one. So it should be looking like this now. Right? Is that guy here? Okay, so we came in at a 382 and now it's moving up. So I was hoping to get a new fib and get a deeper pullback, but maybe we will. We'll see. But continue to watch that. We get through this 65.46 level. Look for a continuation higher on that CAD Swissy, because I'm just trying to figure out when they held rates, right? Which is okay. But I'm looking for that CAD to start benefiting from that oil a little bit, right? To run that oil is making, okay, as it is a commodity currency. So let's look for continued upside, look for entries, look for discount prices on this CAD Swiss to try to get long. At least that's my plan going forward. So not quite where I wanted to be yet, but if we get that continued upward momentum, maybe run through one more fib and see if we can catch pullbacks and continuations on that. Any questions on the CAD Swiss?
No, sir.
All right. Take a look at our CAD yen setup. All right, look at it from the daily. So just bouncing around a little bit, right? We need to get above that 108.16 and stay above it. Right. So kind of moving sideways. We had finally gotten a break above it, but now it's kind of just doing the dance, right? But still overall long on the CAD yen. I have no reason really to be out of that position. Continue to hold it. Here we are on the 4. Okay. Okay. So it's just struggling a little bit right now. bouncing back and forth, but we look forward to continue long on the CAD Swiss. So look for discounted prices and entry opportunities on the CAD yen. Any questions?
No questions there. I was happy to see the bounce that we got yesterday. So
Yep. Hold on 1 second. All right, sorry about that, everybody. Okay. Want to take a look at the Swiss yen, right? So we've seen a couple of pairs that's making a move against the Swissy. We know that this has been sitting pretty high. We know we've got some grumblings with the Bank of Japan, little jawbone, maybe trying to talk prices down against the yen. So I am looking to see. We're starting to get a little bit of a bearish move here on the Swissy yen, but I am keeping an eye on this. Just my trend line, but that 164 level. Okay. So I'm not doing anything with it yet, right? Even though we are starting to get a swing higher for it, right, at this level. All right, so we close out the day lower. That's going to be a new swing high, and it is starting to move down. So I'm going to be thinking twice. Get ready to put a small position in on that at the high, right where it's at now. But my main idea, my conservative idea, is look for a break below this, a break and a close below this 164. And if we get below that, then I'm looking for, even more of a bearish continuation, because we've got past resistance becoming future support, which is where you see this swing low. Okay. So if we get below and we break below that 164, I'm looking for further downside on the Swissy yen, because it's sitting pretty high, and I think it may be due for a correction. Ryan, what do you think about this?
I've been watching this one too, man, and I have a level at my level's a little lower than yours, but I'm in agreement with a break below that.
Mhm.
I'm leaning more toward it potentially bouncing a higher.
Okay.
But I'm watching to see. I'm watching to see on the 1 hour fib is deep in the zone. So if it breaks that level, I'm in agreement with you. If it holds that level, we might reach 176 by the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
I know it's overextended, like on the weekly time frame, it's overextended on the daily, you know what I'm saying? It's overextended everywhere. But yeah, with them not changing anything yet, I'm
Mhm.
leaning more towards neutral to bullish, or
Okay.
potential for the bounce.
Yeah, this is interesting as I zoom in on this on the one. We got a break before that at that 164.99.
Yeah. So I got a fib on that running to the upside.
Yeah.
And let me get back to the one. And it's at a 8.6. That low, that last low is a 8.6 retracement that it bounced off. So if that area holds, might see a push higher.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. It's ranging for sure. All right. All right. Any questions on the Swiss yen? So All right, yeah, I'm quite intrigued by this one. Just because I know the Bank of Japan has been talking. We're looking at other pairs starting to get a good push against the Swissy. Looking at market sentiment, you know. So let's see what happens there on the Swiss yen. Keep your eye on that one, everybody. All right, so that's the Swiss yen. Let's dive in, take a look at the US 30. And so you can see from the daily, right? We are correcting right off the daily time frame. Okay, so we may be having an ABCD move, a correction to the downside. But in the meantime, that would mean there's further downside. On the 1 hour where we played, it had this 80-20 setup. We're now through all three take profit levels. You can see how this A boundary has been taken out. Okay, and so we can flip that fib over just like that. Now, so that's been a beautiful move off the correction to the downside. All right, now, so we flip this fib, so possibly if that daily move is going to play out and we get a further correction, then we could possibly get a high price and then a further move down. Like so. Okay. So that's what I'll be looking out for now to see if I can get a higher price, you know, some pushback on this US 30 and then a further move to the downside, right? Because we're working with the strong dollar, right? So the markets may continue to correct. Any questions on the US 30? That's a good move off that 80-20. So hope some people were able to take advantage of it. All right, no questions. So moving on, let's take a look at the Euro Aussie. So here we are on the daily, right? We're in an up retracement zone. Okay, so you can see how we're starting to make the correction down. Now we're holding up. We got a stochastic that's back in the buy zone. So the momentum may be slowing to the downside, but we'll see how this one plays out because we're holding up here. So if we close the day lower, then we're going to have another swing high here at this level. And if we close below this 167.92, we may see that continued bearish momentum down to 166.71 on this Euro Aussie. So here we are on our daily. Okay, and this is a move that we've been taking advantage of, where we shot right up to that 80-20 zone and we came down. Okay. So the question is, do we continue to see a move down to that 382 at 164.59? Now this is on the 4-hour chart. So if we run our fib top, now you can see where we've got 382, what is 50% pullback. So do we again close below that 167.92 and see a further continued down, right? This has been very choppy trade, a lot of ranging, right? Then we got some momentum to the downside, then it took it back. So this price level, these levels here are key, right? You can see how buyers pushed it right back up into that zone. But we got a pretty strong last 4-hour candle closed pretty bearish, closed below that level. So maybe we'll get a continuation. So we're in the middle, you know, of an 80-20 move to the downside. All right, so there's that 4-hour TP1. And I'll run the fib off the highs. Right, you see it took that out there, but I still want to see if we can get that to move down, right? So we got wicked out there, but see if we can continue to make lower lows and lower highs. All right, there's that TP1 target. So I'm still holding firm on that Euro Aussie to the downside. Let's see how it plays out. Any questions on the Euro Aussie? Okay. Let's take a look at this Euro Swissy. This one is still, all right, just a quick check in on this one. It's an 80-20 play that we had drawn up, and it's still fighting, right? So we haven't gotten to that stop loss yet, but it's still just range, right? So if you're still involved in this trade, you have a position in, right? It's still in play, right? We haven't gotten a break above that trend line. So if you haven't been in on this Euro Swissy trade, right, then you have the opportunity to say, hey, I'll wait to see if we can get a break of the trend line and then a pullback. And then a continuation potentially. But that's still in the game, right? If it doesn't hit our stop loss on our trade idea, then we're still in the game. Okay. So it's getting on your nerves. I know mine too. 95, 597. Oh yeah. All right. So you're in there still. It's holding up. Let's see if we can get that momentum. Like you said, it looks like, that Swissy may be weakening a little bit, looking at some of these pairs. So just continue to give it time. Continue to give it time. All right. So that's that.
Benny, I got a question.
Sure.
Not saying that it's an indicator, but if I start seeing the euro pushing through the Swissy, could I use that light? I mean, as far as to test the strength of the Swissy and trying to monitor that Chef Swissy too. I mean Chef JPY, or there's no correlations with that.
Well, the correlation is right that the Swissy is the cross,
Right.
Is the pair that we're looking at. So a lot of times, if you start to see it across the board, like even against some pairs, like so we know the Swissy have been strong for quite some time. But when you start to see like even some of your weaker pairs, like the Aussie Swiss, like the Aussie hasn't been strong at all, right? For the most part. But we know that we're in a down retracement zone on the Aussie Swiss. When you start to see even some of your weaker performing currencies start to get bullish, against the Swiss franc, then you start to say, okay, that Swissy may be weakening a little bit. You get what I'm saying? That's how I would look at that. Like we know that the euro has been, corrected. We see correcting going on with the euro and the pound. But when you see it, like you see how it's holding up here, even against the Swissy, it's like, all right, maybe that Swissy is starting to weaken a bit. So that's how I would look at that. That's why I always like to look. So if we go in, let's do it on. Let's go check out it. Let's go check out, look at some technical stuff. So if we do quick, so we'll go Swiss CH FJPY. So let's just switch in, and then we'll look at the CHF, CAD, CHF, Euro CHF, GBP, CHF, CHF. And so you could start to see, you see on some of the lower time frames here. So you can see this Swiss yen, where you've got the Swissy as the base currency. You see how it's starting to weaken on some of your lower time frames, right? And then when you look at here, your Aussie Swiss, you see how it's buying against it here. How some of your technical indicators are starting to come in line. See how that's neutral, right? Even against the euro that's been weakening in a correction phase. See how it's moved to neutral and it's just not selling off. Whereas here on the pound, because of that pound news that we went over this morning, hey, we may be looking at getting towards the end, of our hikes. Look at that. You see how that's still selling off? Because that tells you right now that pound is just weak. But look at the NZD Swiss. See that? And then of course the dollar Swiss is long. So that tells you that there's some transitioning going.
I never thought to think about, we use top-down analysis, but I never thought to do the top-down on this to monitor the currency strength.
That's why I put them in the in the newsletters every week at the end. So coming into the week what the technical summaries are saying, and then you can match that up against what you have technically to see if there's any potential for a shift to go on. That's why I put them in this order. So you'll look at you'll look at the Swiss basket, you'll see the Euro basket, the pound basket. It's all there in the newsletter, right? So you can start to see like what's going on. So a lot of times we're in those in a down retracement zone, you'll start to see some of these lower time frame technical summaries start to shift, like you see here. Right. So you see how that's in the buy phase. Now think about it, you're like, wow, the Aussie's been, super weak for the most part, but the way we teach you how to use the fibs and look for those sweet spots, that's kind of playing right into what we're talking about technically. Right? Because price at some point, you want price, if you're looking to sell, Aussie's been weak, you want that price to move higher so you can sell it at a higher price. And you can see it playing out here. So that's your hourly chart. That's your 5 hour. They don't have a 4 hour on here, so I use 5. Okay. Just skimming through to read. Awesome. Appreciate the feedback, Carolyn. It can really help. It can really help you out. Especially with your trade psychology when you're looking at staying in those swing trades. If you don't see anything fundamentally supporting any type of change, even though you may see, okay, man, I was up 200 pips on this trade. Now I'm up 175. It's come down a little bit. Let me look fundamentally to see. Let me read the newsletter. Let me look at the fundamentals to see if there's anything that should change my mind in regards to getting out of this trade. Right. So it kind of helps you to understand what's short-term correction and what's that longer to C to D push when you combine your fundamentals and your technical. So that's what we're looking like with that Swissy. So you're starting to see some things. You're starting to see some things shift a little bit. So when you see a euro that's been, corrected, weakening a bit, holding pretty steady against that Swiss franc, something's up. Right? Something's up. So we'll continue to monitor that. It's held at this 95.22 level 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, so we'll see, but it's back in the sell zone in regards to the momentum on the stochastic. So we'll continue to watch it. Somebody's gonna win that battle. So that's that. Great question. Euro Swissy. Let's take a look at this Euro yen position. So we know we've reached some pretty high levels, right? But that yen has been, so weak, right? It's been so weak. So you can see here how it's turning over. It's a little bit bearish today. This Euro JPY, we're kind of stuck in that range a bit from the daily. But if we come down, this is where we are on the 1 here. So here's our 1 hour. You see how it's just bouncing around. It's super choppy. But we came back down to these levels and tested. So I actually drew this up when I so overall, for the most part, long, right? On a euro yen, that's what we've been. But let me go over, because when I posted that earlier this week, I'm on a different profile. But when I posted it in the Discord earlier this week, I posted it from trading because my smart trading is active. But there was a smaller play that we made on a euro yen that worked out pretty well to the long side. So it was ultimately this move here. This previous ABCD wave is what we posted. So here. So this is what we posted coming out of the weekend, but it looked different. That's my point, because I posted it trading. But now you can see how we're in another ABCD wave sequence on the euro yen. So we'll see if we can get another continuation as we pull back into this zone. So keep your eye on this one to see if we can get a continuation long from here on this euro yen. Even though the euro has been corrective, I'm still fairly bearish on the yen overall. So it's really just a matter of when certain currency pairs against the yen want to get back long. And I'm willing to wait that out, So yes, the Bank of Japan will come in and talk things down. But then I look for prices to correct from that rhetoric, and then I look for continuations ultimately. So that's where I am on the euro yen. So continue to keep an eye on that to see if it wants to start to gain momentum back to the upside. Any questions on the euro yen? That was a good move coming out of the weekend. I think it was 100 over 100 pips. Nope. All right. Euro NZD. All right. So Ryan had brought up, right? During I think it was the ritual, right, Ryan, when we were having this discussion on this Euro NZD. I remember. Yeah.
Yep.
So you had pointed out this potential crown here. And then we knew that from that fib, it was sitting at pretty high level and looking corrective. So when you did that, what I did was decide to go down through my chart. So here's the daily, what we're looking at here. And you can see, right, how we're starting to that we're making lower lows and lower highs. Right, it's what it appears to be right now. So a possible continued move to the downside. So we'll see. Right, we'll see. But right now, that's what it looks like. That we may continue to see. Right, things down. Okay. So the way I set it up, once you pointed that out, I just flipped my fib on the lower time frame, and so far so good. Right. So we'll see if we continue to get that move to the downside on this Euro NZD as the Euro corrects. Right. And Joy had pointed out some movement on the NZD this morning because she was up early. And so that kind of plays right into this narrative as a potential further downside move on the Euro NZD. Okay. So at least maybe we get it to come back down, right? First to that, this extension areas, and then maybe down to retest that trend line and up that run. See? Like that. And then if we come down to the one, okay. See how we got a decent pullback. We're below that monthly level, 182.24. And so here's a low on the 1 hour. So we'll see if we can continue to get more downside pressure on that Euro NZD. All right. So if we get price to break and low, we get a pullback and continuation on down, right? So we're shy of that 786, so possibly back down to that P extension. That'll break that trend. So we'll see. Questions on the Euro NZD? Looking for pullbacks and a possible continuation to the downside. All right, looks pretty clean right now. Moving on to the Euro USD. Okay, we know that Euro is correcting. We've got a strong dollar. Okay, when we know what's going on fundamentally, we can get a good idea technically where price may be heading and what direction before we even get on the charts. That's the beautiful thing about combining technicals and fundamentals. So we can see from the weekly, we are short. And from the weekly chart down to 106.38, looks like that's where it's headed. All right, so we'll see if we have any levels in between there as we move on down. Okay, but this has turned over bearish, and we can see here on second audit, because I was playing with it myself. I needed that to be a deal, but that's okay. Let me go take a look at this 4-hour chart. Okay, so your 4-hour, I have to redo my daily chart, right? Just pushing it bearish. You can see here you've got an ABCD wave. So there's that 106.38 level, right in line with the D extension on this 4-hour. Okay, so you guys can see how these waves play out if you're patient. Okay, once the market made a decision on this Euro USD, and the Euro gave up the fight against that dollar, we just started moving bearish, right? So we look to get to that D extension at 1.6 on a D extension. Now the question is, do we see any type of a pullback before, right? So if you haven't been involved in that move to the downside out of that zone, okay, that is out of that level, that's going to be 300 pips. Huge move on the euro dollar. So the question becomes, do we see any sort of a pullback and correction prior to hitting that 4-hour D extension? Not sure, but you can put it on your radar, right? So possible pullback off the B boundary, look to get short. Does this become, because it's made such a long run already, does this become at this 106.38, 80-20 on the 1, right? And then the further move. So put that Euro USD on your radar. So far, so good off this ABCD move on the 4-hour chart. Any questions on the Euro USD?
I'm looking at it the exact same way. Looking, sitting patient on the 80-20 on the 1, and that 4-hour D extension to be hit, and then get a high price, and then look to get back short. Join Reese in the party.
Right. So let's keep going. Yeah, Reese been on it, man. He was 100% correct on that dollar. 100%. For sure. I love it because I was fighting against it for a little bit there. So thank you, Reese. That's the Euro USD. Any questions on the Euros in general before we move on? No question. No questions. All right, so let's jump in, right? So oil's been on the run. I know the news in regards to those that's out of yeah. What happened earlier during the week was people found out that they knew the cuts were coming, but they didn't think they were going to last as long as what's now being projected. So you saw what we had already drawn up technically, you saw it accelerate, in our direction. So here is Exxon, right, that we've been tracking. You got ExxonMobil, right, huge player in that sector, in that energy sector. And you can see where we've got an AB boundary, we ranged, and then we broke out. And now, coming into this morning, I saw the support that formed at 113.30 on Exxon, and that's probably going to head higher. Okay? That is probably going to head higher. Looks like that support is going to hold. So we'll put resistance in there. So up to 115, and then we know we have that 1.18D extension at 118.03 on Exxon. I know. Joy. Definitely patience. She has it. So there we are, right? So we're looking at a swing low and a possible move higher on Exxon, and we'll jump down as a result. We'll take a look at oil. And we can see that it's just a continuation, right? Here's the daily. Okay. Way, we're at 100% on our stochastic. So that momentum ain't slow. But hey, we're right up around that 118, 127 zone. So maybe we get a correction back down. Here we are on the 4. Okay, we've been spot on this one. Okay. So we definitely think we'll see that 91.28 get hit eventually. Okay. Can't tell you how long it's gonna take or when, but we'll get there. All right. So 91.28 is what we're looking for on the oil. Any questions on that? It's been a beautiful move. So right, we don't always get, the corrections to those deep zones. You can see here on the previous fib how the market just accelerated. But if your trade plan says, hey, I like 61.8s or deeper, maybe you didn't catch this one. Maybe you did. Maybe you decided to take it. But here's your zone right here on the next one. Right. So you have to be patient and stick to your trade plan. All right. So that's oil. Want to move on up, take a look at these pounds, right? Since we've been getting pretty short on the pounds in regards to this correction. So we know, right? We know anytime we hit those higher time frame extensions at some point, right, we'll start to see a correction. Okay, that's what the fib levels and the extension levels help us to recognize, right? In addition to the stochastic. So we say, hey, we're getting pretty extended. We've hit an extension on the fib, and then we look at our stochastic and say, hey, the momentum may be starting to slow because we're a little overbought. And you can see how we've started to get that correction to the downside. So just pulling it all together, right? So we've had a 50% retracement here. We didn't quite slam into that de-extension yet because we hit weekly resistance, all right? So now look how it's turned over. And that plays out in the form of our 80/20s on the lower time frame. Right? So this has been a huge move back to the downside. So the question becomes, do we eventually get all the way back down to this 382 with the pound selling off the way it is? Don't know, but it's been pretty good so far. Right? Been pretty good so far. So here we are on the 1. Here's our 1 hour wave. Okay. Coming right out of that zone. So that's been a huge play. All right, where we at now? 450 pips to the downside, and we're still not at that 1 hour target. All right, so that's where we are in the pound Aussie. So eventually, hey, maybe we get back long, but if you just understand, right, how it works. Up, retracement zone. See here, we had up, retracement zone. It gave us a discount, then it took off. So you're looking at it play out again. This is the ABCD pattern. That's what we're looking at. That's what we focus on. That's the primary pattern that we trade. Okay, is that ABCD wave. So if that's all you ever learned, you could do pretty good. All right. Any questions on the pound Aussie? Nope.
No,
All right.
sir.
All right, take a quick look at this this GJ. So come in, we'll take a look at the daily. We can see where the key level. We're the key level. We were discussing this in the Discord this morning. Right? This setup. And we had Ann, right, taking a look at the fact that this DJ is coming into the support level again, right? So the eyes are watching this level here. And take this box out. Right here in this zone. So we've had a pretty sharp decline coming right into this level. So the way we looked at this, the setup that we posted off of 15 was as an 80-20. And that started this latest down move, this latest bearish move. So you can see how we had an AB boundary, we pushed up to the 80-20 zone, and then we short, right? So off the trend line break, here we come down, we broke it. So we had a tight stop on that, the way we posted it. It's like, call it 25 pips, but that trade is now up close to 200. I don't even know what the risk to reward is. What is that? It's something crazy. Right? So it's pretty decent. It's like 8 times or something. That the XPS played out from 80-20 last week. Now it's just getting there. XPS 6.8 for a buy. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Done that, right? It's playing out. So that's the pound, that's the pound here, and then there was a monster move. Okay. So any questions on that? We're coming in on that key level.
Nope. Watching it to see what happens.
All right. All right. So that's that. What I don't know a lot of stuff right now. I know we're getting close to closing out. This pound New Zealand. Okay. So just quickly, right? We're getting a lot of good movement. So here we are on the 4. And again, out of that zone, and we know, right? Joy talked about this morning. Hey, I see some movement, some bullish movement on that New Zealand dollar. Now we know we've got the rhetoric that came out of the Bank of England, and you got the pound selling off and correcting. It plays right into our technical story. Okay. So we are pushing down on this pound New Zealand. So that's the 4-hour target there, right? A little bit longer term. And then here is our 1. So this is the game that I'm playing on the 1, is that, hey, we have here. So there you go, right out of that zone. We've held up, that 213.94 held up, and we have gotten short. Okay, so we're looking at coming in at least on this sub fib to this D extension, right? So that's longer term targets that we have, but you got that D extension there at 210. So we look for further continuations down, right? So we've been pretty spot on with a lot of these setups. You just have to be patient. Okay, these are big moves. So every week It might not shape up like this when you're swing trading, but if you stay patient and wait for your key zones to be hit, it's huge dividends, right? So we look for a continued move on the pound New Zealand. Any questions on that?
No, sir.
All right, pound dollar. All right, we got to move down. We broke through. Look, we broke through those levels. That 125.47. This is heading down. Trade what we see. Trade what we see. We've got a strong dollar. So what does that mean? That means this 4 hour, okay? And I posted it off the one, the continuation in the group yesterday. But this is nothing but a 80-20. All right, can't make this stuff up. TP1 smacked on a four. That is a monster move, everybody. It's over 600 pips. Over 600 pips to the downside. So sometimes we see things start to take shape technically before the fundamentals come into alignment to make it all make sense. That's the beauty behind what we do, right? So you can see here, I posted this continuation yesterday. So you can see this latest ABCD wave. Look at the pullback there. And then look how it held, right? Past support becoming future resistance. Look how it held up in that zone yesterday. And now we've got this continuation. So we've got that downside target at 123.87 at that 1 hour D extension. So off of that 61.8, you're already down over 200 pips. You got an extension at 326. Right? You got an extension at 326. So huge move, right? So if you don't catch the initial move, right, out of that 80-20 zone like we had it set up, then we have to understand that the market moves in waves. Okay, so that ABCD wave should complete soon. Questions on the pound dollar? You said you've been asleep doing all these moves. It takes time. It's all good. Want to check in on the NZD cat because we know that's been a long one, and it's still running to the downside. So that's your weekly chart there. But we had for the longest time this crown drawn out on 1 hour. And this is why we trade the zones. We always say that we can't tell you how long it's going to take, when is going to get there, or what it's going to look like. But we trade the zones, and you can see how. Look at the pullback, right? We came up shy of a 786, so we're looking at a 1.618D extension, and you can see that we're closing in on that 4 hour target here. See, if you go back to the 4, you can see how we got a pullback to a 61.8. I mean, a 50% up against that 84.27. And then there's your crown. All right. Here is your crown. Right there. Okay. At a larger view on the 1. But there it is. So some of these pairs, based on the ATR, they're not going to move as fast, but they still move in an ABCD way. Okay. So you were learning during that time, you could not see it until now. It's all good. When we say it, that's why we always say, when you get it, you got it. Right. And once you see it, you can't not see it. All right. So last one, we'll look at because Donette talked about that on the S&P. and we'll wrap things up for this session. Appreciate you all hanging in there. So here we are, right? TP2, so you're setting up for the potential buy, right? So we've got this 80-20 down to TP2 in the sweet spot. And you can see how it's circled right back to test that level again, right? So just be patient with that because that's a potential double bottom on the 1 hour. If that level holds, and you know you have time, right? So you can draw, okay, you can draw a downtrend line on this and just let it ride, okay? And then you can let it go ahead, right? Let it prove to us, right, that the market's tired of getting beat up by that dollar strength, and we get some buyers at those levels. Questions on anything that we covered today?
It took a week, Benny. 31st, I was in that trade from the top. 80-20.
So you played it, eh?
Yeah.
Great work. Great work. And you find time to make it happen because you are always on the move. Always on the move. So you
Thank you.
you got a lot of irons in the fire. Donette always has something going on. So whether it's with family or business, she is on the move, right? So quite a joy to follow. So she could take advantage of it. You're welcome. She could take advantage of it. You guys could take advantage of it, right? Just have to plan it out. Awesome job. Yup. You got some 100s coming in, some fireballs in the chat. Drop some 7s in there for you for sure. Great job, great work, everybody. Ryan, anything before we close it out today?
A great work done. No, man. Great session, dude. Continue to dig in, good people. Continue to dig in. It's here, we here, and we making it happen.
All right. Well, hey, tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is Friday, but guess what? We'll be here 6:30 a.m. Right? So that was one of the changes that we made. We will have a Friday morning session to close out the week. And we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our first Friday session. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.